Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton fears that Bitcoin will undermine the dollar as the world reserve currency. Hillary warned, what looks like a very interesting and somewhat exotic effort to literally mine new coins in order to trade with them has the potential for undermining currencies, for undermining the role of the dollar as the reserve currency, for destabilizing nations, perhaps starting with small ones, but going much larger. We are not here to dump on Hillary Clinton like so many people would prefer. I believe we're here today to say that Hillary Clinton is right. Bitcoin will destabilize nations. It will undermine the dollar as a reserve currency. And we've been saying it for years. Dan Eve, is Hillary Clinton right?
Unfortunately, she actually is. Like she's spot on the money. It's almost like she doesn't realize what Bitcoin's about. Hasn't really done a lot of research. She's like, yeah, but it's gonna undermine fiat. Yeah, yeah, but it's gonna undermine governments. Yeah, these are all the things that kind of they're the root of Bitcoin and why it was created out of the birth of Bitcoin out of the financial crisis. But once again, it does seem it's a bit of a politician coming up with problems, not solutions, saying kind of stuff that's a bit whiffle waffly, like that it's going to destabilize nations. How it may destabilize currencies, but how it's going to destabilize nations is another story. Maybe it's referring to, say, I don't know, a bit more detail would be good, but I'm theorizing, like, I don't know, North Korea stacking Bitcoin, and then suddenly North Korea is a powerhouse, and that's worrying to destabilize other nations. That might be it. But also, I like the remarks about disinformation. You just think about, well, all the disinformation there is nowadays, and I must admit, my favorite Hillary Corker, which I remember recently, she said recently, I think it was recently, was that she applied for NASA when she was a little girl, and NASA said no, and then someone did the maths on it, and they were like, NASA wasn't invented then. so so that's disinformation too. So big up Bitcoin.
It reminds me of a lot of a few years ago when President Obama said that Bitcoin was like a Swiss bank account in your pocket. And I think I and every other Bitcoiner were like, well, yeah. And isn't that awesome? And that's not at all what President Obama meant. Martine Wismere, your thoughts on Hillary Clinton and the destruction of the US dollar?
I think she is right in a way. There's a limited amount of Bitcoin. It's like 21 million. Sure, the US dollar has been used as it's still being used as the world's reserve core currency, but like not long after the Second World War ended, all the finance ministers from all the European nations came together, and I don't know who the US finance minister was, and they asked him, like, this dollar thing as a reserve currency, this how does this work? Will you keep printing them? He said, yes, it's our currency and your problem. And now it's the other way around. Now it's Bitcoin. That's our currency and it's their problem. And I think it is good in a way that we are seeing a stateless, by the people currency becoming a world standard. And it would not have happened if the central banks globally, not just the Fed, but also the ECB and every other central bank, would have been going on a printing rampage during the past years. I believe there's more dollars printed in the past year alone, or 2 years, than there have been in the 100 years before that. It's just downright insane, and it's basically, it's stealing, it's causing inflation, and that's stealing from everyone. And now everyone is pissed off with this. Sorry for my wording, but they're not happy with this, and they have a plan B, and plan B is Bitcoin. So I think this is, I think Hillary in that way is right. The only thing is she's 13 years too late with realizing it. So, good luck in trying to stop it now,
But I do agree. And let's move on to the exit question. As Martine was mentioning, inflation. Is this the major inflation event that Bitcoiners have been waiting for? Is this the beginning of hyperinflation, or is this just a bump in the road caused by supply problems and the coronavirus? Dan Eve, inflation, yes or no?
Well, inflation is very bad, but what's really interesting is how many dumbass articles that we're seeing recently going, inflation's a good thing. And it's like that real cool meme that's going around that's like, inflation's really bad. Inflation's okay. Inflation's just transitory. Inflation is amazing. Like what? Where's the logic? How does that even come in? Like how is it logical that inflation is a good thing, that like a loaf of bread, even though like wages aren't rising, but because we're printing money out of thin air, a loaf of bread is like 20 cents one year, 25 cents the next year. Nothing's rising in line with it. It makes absolutely no sense. Stop printing money. It's ridiculous.
Martine Wishmayer.
I forgot the exit question, Thomas. I was so focused on.
Oh, you're still quiet. You got to go close on the microphone. Just bring it in, man. People don't mind seeing a microphone. They're okay with it.
I forgot the exit question.
Inflation. Is this the inflation bump that everyone's waiting for, or is it just another bump in the road?
I don't think we've seen anything yet. Prices are going up. At General Buys, we make Bitcoin ATMs, and it's really crazy how prices of all the components go up. It's not just some components. It's even the price of steel has been going up like crazy, or the price of wooden pallets to transport stuff, or the price of transport. Everything is going up, and it's going up faster than I think they thought it would go up. And it's not just temporary. This is a permanent price increase we're seeing for everything, like in the restaurants up, groceries up, everything is up. And electricity prices in the Netherlands, they went up sometimes 800%. So like 8 times, like it's ridiculous. And there's nothing good about inflation. Inflation is the politicians and the central banks creating more money to steal from everyone. Bad. Inflation bad. Bitcoin good. Inflation bad.
See, now you Bitcoiners are a hard lot to hang out with, right? You're all rooting for hyperinflation that destroys the economy and pretty much ruins everyone around us except the Bitcoiners. They'll be fine. So I don't think this is hyperinflation. I agree with Martin. This is bigger than they thought. Inflation is larger. I think it's around 6 to 8%. It might go up more. It pretty much directly caused by the coronavirus, economy shutdown, economy restart, the supply chain problems. Remember when that boat was wedged in the Suez Canal and you said, what has that got to do with me? I don't care about big tankers being wedged in the Suez Canal, but it backed up all the other boats. In the same way, the coronavirus, having all these factories shut down, even for a day, even for a week, it backed up all these factories. So we have a legitimate supply chain problem. Example, you go to IKEA, you can't get the right color bookcase anymore. And I used to go to IKEA all the time for bookcases. Now all my bookcases are random colors and I just deal with it because the supply chain is effed and I want to put my stuff on shelves. So I don't think we're at end of the world hyperinflation yet. I also don't think in America that the infrastructure bill is going to add to inflation. It's a fascinating thing. You got to study where the money's spent. But if you're spending the money on roads and bridges and things that contribute to the economy, government spending can actually make the economy go up. I know it's shocking, it's horrifying, but everything's a shade of gray. You really have to study more details. The Build Back Better bill, the second half, the social safety net, that's a little bit more. That might cause inflation. So I'll give you that one. But the infrastructure one, that's all good. As far as hyperinflation, end of the world, we're not there. As far as, like Hillary's saying, overturning the petrodollar, we're not there. But it's like the old joke that they say from the 20s, how did you go broke, Mr. Rockefeller? At first slowly, and then all at once. So we won't really know it till we run over it. And when we really run over it, yeah, it's going to be like Cormac McCarthy's The Road, right? It's going to be desperate and awful. And you think your citadels are great, but there was a reason they built those castle walls, right? To keep the invaders and the barbarians out. And if you look at China, they built a great wall. You can see it from space. And the Mongols, who people think of as uneducated, Kublai Khan was certainly not. And the Mongols just rode around the wall. So however big your wall is, however nice your citadel is, maybe it's on the planet Mars, there's going to be some peasants nearby and they're going to walk around your walls. I say it all the time and I like saying it, but as General Patton said, Fixed fortifications are a monument to the stupidity of man. So be flexible. Keep moving. Don't show off your wealth. Don't build a big castle. It's like putting a big target on your back. I own a castle. Not a good thing to say in the middle of hyperinflation. But it's okay. You Bitcoiners can learn manners when the world collapses. Check out Cormac McCarthy's book, The Road. It's fantastic, but very depressing.